So what's going on, guys? So occasionally when you're reviewing vehicles, you get one that hardly anybody is going to have anything negative to say about, and most people probably at some point in their life either admired or currently admire. And I am in that vehicle today, and I really think that you're going to like this review. So guys, you are looking at the 2018 Toyota Land Cruiser. If there's one thing you gotta say when you see this vehicle, is it definitely looks aggressive and bold. The Land Cruiser has always been one of those vehicles that you can instantly see that Toyota Land Cruiser heritage in, going all the way back to the early days. A lot of people absolutely love the older body styles, but the newer ones have definitely taken advantage of a lot of the new technology that's available, such as full LED lighting. Every light on this vehicle is LED except for the turn signals. So your fog lights, your high beams, your low beams, your little accent trim underneath, and it produces incredibly good light output. Going down the side, you can instantly identify a Land Cruiser. The body, even though it's changed and it's become more aerodynamic and they've softened some of the edges, you can definitely tell that the lineage of the Land Cruiser is adopted in this newer body style. Another key attribute of the Land Cruiser has been this little area in the back here where the back headlight area sticks out. Now, one area that Toyota has definitely departed from their traditional Land Cruiser mindset is the tailgate area. So traditionally on a Land Cruiser, the tailgate would swing out. And the reason they did that is because in some countries like Australia and Europe, where they use these vehicles extensively off-road, they would put the spare tire on the back door. So swinging outwards made a lot of sense if you have a spare tire sitting on the door. The new Land Cruiser, however, adopts a little bit different technology. So let's check out what it looks like. So on this new Land Cruiser, the liftgate is actually split into two pieces. You have the upper half, which raises up, and then you have the lower half, which you use this little handle for, and it drops down nice and slowly. So it turns into essentially a small tailgate. And that can come in incredibly handy if you are loading things into the back and you don't want them to jostle around or fall out whenever the liftgate opens up. That's a big problem for people who load a lot of equipment in the back of these and they go off-roading, because as you go up inclines, the cargo in the back tends to shift. What ends up happening is when you lift the tailgate up, everything just kind of falls out. So this technology is really nice because this lower tailgate, when up, gives you a really nice area back here to still secure everything. Now you can see that Land Cruiser has definitely kept the tradition of using jump seats on the side. Traditionally, in your larger SUVs, your third row will fold flat into the floor. But on this vehicle, they fold up into the side. Now, the thought process behind that is cargo volume without sacrificing clearance beneath. So typically, if the seats fold down, it means the floor is also going to rest lower to the ground. And because of that, you don't get quite the articulation or clearance for your suspension. Even though these seats do take up some space on the side, they come out about 8 inches off each side. You still have a tremendous amount of center space here. And if you want to drop the seats down, you simply pull this handle and the seat will fold down, flip up, and you're ready to go. Another thing to note about the Land Cruiser is that it utilizes a fully boxed frame. So this is a body-on-frame structure and not a unibody platform. One of the reasons for this is because of the increased suspension articulation that the Land Cruiser needs to have to go over different types of terrain. Fully E-coated frame. Something that the Land Cruiser also uses is a full axle on the back as opposed to fully independent suspension. The Land Cruiser does have full front and rear parking sensors, as well as 360-degree cameras, including this rear reverse camera. And the forward-facing camera is right here below the Toyota emblem. Now, when you look at the wheels and tire setup on the Land Cruiser, you might scream kind of blah, like it's plain. But the reality behind them is, again, this vehicle is designed to go over all sorts of different terrain, so they want to equip it with a pretty beefy tire and a wheel setup that's also going to help in terms of smoothness and comfort. So this comes equipped with a 285/60/18 on a 18-inch wheel. Now, the minute you step into the Land Cruiser, it is going to scream Lexus. It's going to scream luxury and high-end. You have a massive screen up front, a 9-inch display, as well as the fit and finish you would expect in not only a high-end Toyota or a high-end Land Cruiser, but in pretty much any Lexus vehicle as well. All of the buttons, knobs, and controls just scream quality. The way that they're positioned, the tolerances between seams, everything on this vehicle is incredibly high-end, including real wood use for the dash materials as well as the trim in the doors. Now, one thing to note about the interior of the Land Cruiser is they don't do things quite as gaudy per se as you might see in some of the vehicles you might look at, mainly because the interior, the gauge cluster, the way they design it, the information they provide you is in a much more simplistic fashion. They really don't go with that whole, the entire center being LED or a whole screen like you might see in newer Ford, Ram, and GM trucks or SUVs. Basically, you just have this little area for information up front. It looks like it's probably about a 4-inch screen, and it just gives you whatever information you need at the time, from your miles per gallon, information about the vehicle, as well as some of the settings you can change. As you can see, it has analog gauges. Every gauge on here is analog. From a steering wheel perspective, you have a lot of features. Most of them are going to be related to your media and your phone usage on this side, whereas this side is going to be to control your cruise control, as well as some of the safety features like lane departure notification and the menus on your info screen between the gauges. It is a push-button start vehicle. Toyota and Lexus have been doing that for some time. Now, on the infotainment system, on the screen itself, you have some controls that they don't give you down here. So, for instance, if you want to adjust the fan speed for your air conditioning controls, you have to do that from the screen. You would have to switch to climate and then adjust your fan controls or your fan speed from the screen itself. I wish they put a button here to control your fan speed. I think that that's one of the more accessed buttons, and it would be nice to have an actual physical button down here to do that with. Now, if there's one thing they've done a good job of, is equipping the Land Cruiser with air conditioning vents. There is really no area in this vehicle that you can't get air directly onto you if you need it. And it's incredibly cool air, so you don't really have that that fine line of, is it cold enough to actually cool me down? This air conditioning system is amazing, and it's actually so much so that it's worth noting. Now, an area where the Land Cruiser really shines is its four-wheel drive capabilities and its off-roading capabilities. You have all sorts of different configurations to use this vehicle off-road. You can change what type of off-road conditions you're driving in. You can change how the vehicle handles going up or downhill. You have the ability to change crawl modes. You can pretty much control every conceivable dynamic of how this vehicle tackles off-road situations. And this is one of those vehicles that, quite frankly, relies a lot on technology to accomplish it. This is a full-time four-wheel drive vehicle, so you can either put it in 4 high or 4 low and change the different types of four-wheel drive environments you're going to be driving in, whether it's going to be rock, sand, mud, things like that. And a lot of the features that are baked into this are specific to people who are going to use this vehicle in extreme off-road conditions, such as this little tight turning feature here. So when you enable this button, it's actually going to apply significantly higher brake pressure to the inside rear tire of whatever turn you're taking. So if you're turning to the left, the inside rear left tire is going to have a much greater braking force on it. Just a really thoughtful feature that really the only people who are going to use that are going to be those people who take this vehicle out to areas like Moab, or take it out to the desert, or take it out to different types of overland type of conditions. One thing I can really say about the seats are that they're very comfortable. I mean, excessively comfortable. If you look at the seat, you can just see the bolstering, how padded it is. But not only that, this is one of the few vehicles that has an incredibly good seat ventilation system. When you turn on the cooling or heating seats, not only does it cool the seats down quickly, and you can physically feel the air really being pushed through the holes, but when you have it on heat mode, it heats up very quickly as well. So the Land Cruiser is almost designed for any type of temperature or condition you're going to subject it to. You know, what's funny is kind of an indication of the luxury package you get on a vehicle is sometimes how many memory options you have for the seating. So you have 3 memory options for this seating, plus it ties to the person getting in the vehicle. So if you have a key fob programmed with the memory seat, when you hop in, it will automatically adjust the seat and the mirrors to the configuration of the person with that specific key fob. As you might expect in a vehicle in this price point, you do get a full 360-degree camera view of the vehicle when it's in reverse, as well as your rear view camera. And then you can switch between different modes, such as a super wide angle mode or back to the normal camera mode. Now, something I really don't care for is how the rear DVD system works. So you have 2 9-inch displays back there, and if for some reason you lose the remote, which is a wireless remote, you really have no control over the system anymore, which means if you have children, they take the remote out or it gets lost or damaged, you may not be able to control a DVD or anything that's playing on the back. Another thing is that they do a great job of making a really large, vibrant screen, but it's not as bright as I would expect it. And when you put the vehicle in reverse, the camera isn't quite as clear as I would expect. I would expect it to be a high-definition, really bright image, considering it's very bright outside, and it's not quite as bright or clear as I would expect. Now, what I do like is some of the markings they give you on the map here. I don't know if you can see it, but you can actually see some of your turning lines, not just for the back, but you have a turning line angle for your front as well. So as you're turning, lines will appear around the tires, so you can actually see where your front tire's turning angle is going to be. And that's different. Most vehicles don't offer anything like that. And that's even in 360-degree camera mode. So this vehicle offers a really, really cool feature, one that some people will get a lot of use out of and some people may never use. And when you flip this up, you actually have a cool box. When you turn that on, it funnels the coldest of air-conditioned air into this little compartment. Let's see if I can get down in there. You can hear the air blowing into it right now. Now, the AC must be on in order for you to use this feature. It doesn't matter how high the fan's blowing in the cab, but you do have to have the AC running to use the cool box feature. And I'm going to tell you, it actually gets very cold. It's not like this room temperature cold, but it gets very cold. It funnels, like I said, incredibly cold air-conditioned air into that space. And then the pocket above is a pretty small little center console pocket, to be honest with you. You don't have much room for very much anything in this pocket, honestly. You could probably fit some change in here or a pocket knife. I'm not really sure what you could fit in that spot. It's a little bit smaller than I had expected. And next to the center console stack, you have several controls here. One of them is the power liftgate button in the back. You have the ability to turn that door off so you can't accidentally press it, as well as your collision avoidance system. And then on the left side, you have your headlight features. You have auto high beam, which is that lower button right here. Essentially, it turns the high beams on when it detects there's no cars in front of you. The ability to turn on and off your power folding mirrors when you turn off the engine. This has a nice feature built into it to where if you turn off the engine, get out of the vehicle and lock the doors, the mirrors will automatically fold in. And then when you turn off the alarm and unlock the doors with the key fob, the mirrors automatically fold back out. You can turn your parking sensors on and off there, and you also have front headlight washers. It's a spraying system which simply pops out some sprayers and sprays off the front headlights, which can come in pretty handy if you're in a snowy environment or if you are going off-roading and you get mud, dirt, and debris on the front. Now, the back seat is actually very comfortable. So the front seat is in my normal driving position, and the back seat, I have probably 5 inches of space between my knees and the back of the front seat. It is a spacious back seat. It feels like you're in a Tahoe or an Expedition in terms of overall size. Now, it is a little narrower, so you're going to lose a few inches on the total width, and that might affect your hip room. Now, we use our child seat in the center, and I wanted to install it so I would get a good idea of how much space I have left. And ultimately, at least according to my wife, she says that the room is very comparable to that of her Navigator that we have. Lots of controls here in the center. You can fully control the air conditioning for both passengers. You have the ability to control all sorts of features like your heated seats for the rear on each side. Down below, you have connections for HDMI. And both rear seat passengers have auxiliary ports to plug in their phones so they can listen to the music through the headphones, which is really nice. So now that we're taking this Land Cruiser out for a drive, let's talk about some of the driving dynamics. This is probably No, I'm going to say this is definitely the smoothest riding SUV I have ever been in. I thought the Tahoe was smooth. I thought the Ford Expedition was smooth. This thing is smooth. You almost expect when you hit some of the road bumps that it's going to transfer into the vehicle like a traditional SUV or truck, but in no way does it. It rides, to me, smoother than some luxury cars. It is just amazing. It blows away any of the other trucks or SUVs that I've driven by a long margin. Secondly, it handles relatively well. When you make any type of lane corrections or you're turning, you expect a vehicle like this, especially with that real plush suspension, to want to sway excessively. And it doesn't feel like it does that. It feels very planted and connected to the road, which is really just a testimony to how fine-tuned the suspension on this vehicle is, especially considering the fact it has a solid rear axle. Another really nice characteristic is just how much you can see over the hood. Even though the hood is a relatively straight out design, similar to a pickup truck, you have a lot of forward visibility over it, which I can appreciate. Plus, you have this really big groove right down the center that you can probably see on the camera that is a little awkward to see, but it allows you to see additional room over the hood, which I guess if you're four-wheeling, if you're approaching an object, it's really going to help in terms of predicting your approach angle. Now I'm going to have this Land Cruiser for a week, so I'm going to be able to take it out in different environments and use it in several different ways and spend more time in it. And I will give you my honest feedback on what I like about it, some of the things I don't like about it, some of the comparisons to other SUVs that I've driven, and honestly, if I recommend this to somebody looking for this type of vehicle. One of the reasons why I don't film some of the details that maybe some other reviewers do is because I want to give you more of a practical approach to how most people will use this vehicle. Only a very, very small percentage of folks who buy this are going to take it out to the desert or going to take it out to extreme off-road scenarios. Personally, I think most people buy these because they want a luxury SUV, but then they also want the option of very, very capable SUV. And that's kind of like when you get a truck with four-wheel drive. 90% of folks may never turn on four-wheel drive, but they'd like to know that it's there if they need it. And that's how I feel this vehicle is designed. Guys, honestly, at the end of the day, if you get an SUV like this, you're getting it because it fulfills a need, whatever that need might be. You might have a large family and you need the third row seating. You might just want the luxury and the comfort that comes in an SUV like this. You might want the technology, or you want the combination of all of it, plus the peace of mind of knowing that you have one of the most capable off-road vehicles made. And I think that the Land Cruiser delivers on that well. If you want more prestige, you can always opt for the LX version of this with the Lexus. But at the end of the day, I think most people see the name Land Cruiser as synonymous with extreme capability in a package that is very, very plush and luxurious. And you're going to pay for it. Upwards of $90,000 after tax, tag, and licensing. So it's definitely not an inexpensive vehicle. Anyways, guys, I'll have more videos about this specific vehicle as I drive it and spend more time in it. I hope you guys tune in for those. So far, I really like it. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a big thumbs up, and I will talk to you again soon.